Good afternoon, everybody. Bear with me. I left my glasses in my office, so I might just go all together here. Good afternoon. Welcome to our February 26, 24 regular meeting of Belleville City Council. City of Belleville acknowledges we are meeting today on the traditional territory of many nations. The municipality operates on the unceded and unsurrendered lands of our Indigenous peoples. We recognize and honor the historic relationship of Indigenous peoples to the land and acknowledge our shared obligation to respect, honor, and sustain these lands and the natural resources contained within. We recognize all First Nation, Métis, and Inuit who call Belleville their home and support the need for cultivating a strong relationship with them. We look forward to fostering a path towards reconciliation and show respect for the Indigenous peoples who first lived and currently live on the land where we now all reside together. I will call this meeting to order. We are all present, and we please remain standing for a moment of reflection from City Clerk Matt McDonald.
May we be worthy custodians of all that has been entrusted to us. Help us to be concerned only for what will promote good government. May we bring to our council chamber minds that think and hearts that feel, always having respect for others, so that we may serve the people of our city in a helpful manner and for the good of all.
Please be seated. Okay, we start with a public meeting on the agenda. Public meeting will be held today in council chambers, City of Belleville, on February 26th to consider an amendment to zoning bylaw 10245 amended to property known as the municipality of 1 Alhambra Square. And before I put that out, pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Mr. Thompson or Councillor Thompson.
8C2E.
Okay, anybody else? Seeing none, public meeting is open. Anybody to speak? I will count 1, 2, 3. Okay, we'll move along then. Closed. I need a motion for the confirmation of council meetings of February 12th, 24 and regular camera meeting minutes of February 12th, 24. Moved by Councillor Chatton, seconded by Councillor Carr. Any discussion from the minutes? Councillor Carr?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to request a correction of the minutes of the regular council meeting on February 12th. During the announcements portion of the meeting and in reference to an agenda item 13.1, you had initially introduced a motion to have council direct the mayor to use strong mayor powers as it relates to the appropriate planning approval as required for the property at 1 Alhambra Square. I did rise on a point of order pursuant to procedural bylaw 2019-48, section 4.7, to bring to council's attention an irregularity regarding the wording of the motion, specifically to outline that under the provincial legislation, council doesn't have the authority to direct you as mayor to exercise those strong mayor powers. You did rule on the point of order, and the wording of the motion was corrected to that which is contained within the minutes. The point of order that I raised is not included in the minutes, and pursuant to procedural bylaw 2019-48, section 7.53, I rise to advise council of this error in the minutes and by resolution request its correction. Thank you.
Okay, that's to the clerk. So passing on the minutes as amended. All in favor? Carried. Deputations, we have with us today Bill Galitsky, Executive Director, and Jean Chichiro, Board Chair of the Children's Safety Village, here to make a deputation.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, city staff. Thank you very much for granting us the time for this presentation today. I know how busy you all are, particularly this week, so as unaccustomed as I am to it, I will endeavor to be brief. Before I start, I would like to take a moment to introduce our board chair, Jean Chichiro, who is here. Many of you will recognize her from her time at City Hall. For those of you who are not aware, Jean has been with the Children's Safety Village Board since 2004, when the board was first formed. She has served in pretty much every role on the board that you can imagine, and she has graciously agreed to take over as chair again in this very critical time in our being. So we at the board are extremely grateful to Jean and for Jean, and are thankful that she is willing to step up yet again. On behalf of Jean and the entire board, I again thank you for allowing me to be here before you today and make this request to City Council. As you have already seen, I imagine from documentation, Children's Safety Village is asking the City of Belleville for a loan of $125,000 to cover the cost of the planning and engagement phase of our upcoming capital fundraising campaign. That campaign will ultimately raise about $4 million to help us rebuild a new Children's Safety Village at the Clifford Sonny Belch Park, formerly Hillcrest School. Further, we are asking that this loan be made at the lowest possible rate you can comfortably manage, and that it have a term of no less than 5 years and no more than 10 years, with no cut payments coming before March 2025. We are also asking that this council commit to a $100,000 donation to this capital campaign once it is underway, although we recognize that this commitment most likely will not come this year or possibly even next year. However, we do want to go on record as saying we are asking, and we will continue to ask, and hopefully by the time you get tired of seeing me, you will say yes and agree to the donation. I will not go over everything in the proposal, but I would like to raise a few key points. First, since 2004, Children's Safety Village in Belleville has given literally thousands of young people the tools they need to help keep them safe. Last year, during our first full year of programming after 3 years of being down because of COVID, more than 1,000 young people came through our doors to learn the tools to keep them safe in our community. This year, we are well ahead of that pace. The tools to keep them safe on our streets, to keep them safe in their homes, safe around our local train tracks, and in more recent years, safe on the internet, safe around dangerous people, and most recently, safe around electricity and power lines. We have done this with the support of our partners and friends, including the Belleville Police and Belleville firefighters. And we have done it with no financial assistance from the municipality or any other taxpayer. No funding from any level of government. We rely solely on the generous support of our sponsors, our partners, our other benefactors, and of course, the public, which supports us generously year after year after year. One of the challenges we face at the Children's Safety Village is proving that our work is successful. It is very hard to show how many children were not hit by a car because street safety was taught to them at the village. It was taught to them, they learned it, they did so in an interactive way, and they did so in a way that is fun. Let's face it, learning for young children is not always the best time. But to quote one of the 8-year-olds that we had at our village last year, her day at the village was the best day of school ever. Admittedly, she's only 8. She has a lot of days to go, but that was a good start. And we don't have to look very far to see how important our work is in our community. Sampling a few of the headlines from our area recently. Fire chief issues statement following string of fires. Collision, vehicle hits pedestrian. Huge barn fire in Thurlow. Man dies after fire in Quinte West. These headlines show in very real terms that what we teach at the Children's Safety Village has real life implications. Implications that are affecting people in our city and our region every day. Not only that, but we continue to expand our programming to meet the changing safety needs and to improve the programming we're already offering. Thanks to our new partners, new programs are being continually developed. In the last year, we have added home safety and electrical safety. We are in discussions now to expand our internet and personal safety programming, and we have begun discussions with Quinte paramedics to add their expertise to our current programming. And a key part of our new village, when we get that built, will be a fire escape room so that children can get firsthand experience and practice in learning how to escape buildings that catch on fire. It is one of the many additions we are looking forward to adding in the new village. But that being said, I think it is important to note that the reason we are here today, the reason we're here to seek your help, is due to circumstances entirely out of our control. We did not choose to move. We did not expect to move. We did not want to move. When City Council made the decision to move the Belleville Police Headquarters to its current location at Sydney and College Streets, it decided the Children's Safety Village would remain behind. We understood that, and in fact, we made a conscious decision to make the best possibly out of that decision that we could. In fact, our last major fundraising effort in 2017 was specifically to improve the facilities we're currently at so that we could continue to offer the programming we're offering for many, many years to come. Instead, 3 years later, we were told we had to move. And that is fine. That is the way things go. That is, as they say, part of the territory of being in the position we're in as a not-for-profit. And the property that we are currently sitting on is going to one of the most important and worthwhile causes we can ever imagine in our community at this time. And I'm here to say that everybody at the Children's Safety Village is thrilled to be a partner with and a friend with Habitat for Humanity, and to have them be partners and friends with us, and we wish them nothing but success in their project that is going to be taking place on the former police property at 93 Dundas Street, as well as the property currently occupied by the village. But the circumstances behind this move have left us facing some daunting and unexpected challenges, in particular raising a lot of money to move the Children's Safety Village, and to do it sooner rather than later. We did not have years of time to prepare, to build a nest egg, to rally support and supporters, especially not during COVID. And our only assets, our classroom building and garage, built for the village by the Quinny Home Builders Association, again, at no cost to taxpayers. Well, they're staying with the property, so we cannot take advantage of them to fund our move. That being said, we are extremely confident that we will run a strong, competent, and effective fundraising campaign, and that we will raise the $4 million we need to build a new safety village. But time is counting down as Habitat moves forward, and we have very few viable options. Truth is, we need the city to come to the table to help us get started so we can start our campaign so that we are successfully moved by the time Habitat wants to start their valuable work on that property. This loan we are asking for will enable us to get that work started and will get us able to put shovels in the ground sooner rather than later. That's why we are asking for your help. For the last 20 years, the Children's Safety Village has given our children the tools they need. We involve them in what they were learning so they will truly understand how to be safe in a world that becomes more and more challenging every day. And we hope to continue doing that work for the next 20 years. And we hope that this City Council will see clear and help us to do that work. Thank you again for your time. I believe I have more or less kept my promise to be brief, and I'm happy to take any questions council has at this time.
Okay, questions to deputation? Councilor Enright, Miller?
Thank you, Chair. I don't have a question, I just have more of a comment. Mr. Gliski, thank you so much. I just want to make note that the Children's Safety Village is such a wonderful organization, and we're so fortunate to have this level of community service and care right here in Belleville. I know so many young people and youth have passed through the doors of the Children's Safety Village, and come out with a greater knowledge of safety and security when it comes to bike safety, fire, home, internet, rail safety that you teach on a daily basis. In this day and age, it is wonderful that this village can provide the tools to our youth to help them navigate through possible harmful situations. And your work empowers youth to make informed decisions and play an active role in community safety, and I thank you for that. I think it behooves us to really look at how we can help the Children's Safety Village continue their great work in our city. And I thank you for your deputation and ongoing care and support for our city's young people. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for everybody who's supported us. I know many of the people on this table have been to the village on occasions to help us launch things and support things and raise money for things, and we are grateful for that.
Okay, Councillor Thompson.
I'd move that we receive it and send the request to finance,
Budget, sorry.
our budget, sorry.
Yep. Seconded by Councillor Chatton. Discussion, all in favor? Carried. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you all.
Okay, correspondence, request to CFB Air Show sponsorship. The January 25th, 24 letter from Quinte International Air Show requesting sponsorship funding for the upcoming 8th Wing CFB Trenton Quinte International Air Show be received and referred to operating budget. Moved by Councillor Alsop, seconded by Councillor Millet. Discussion, all in favor? Carried. I need a motion to go into Committee of the Whole. Council will rise and go into Committee of the Whole to hear, consider reports, passing of recommendations, and resolution with Councillor Millet in the chair. Moved by Councillor Chatton, seconded by Councillor Enright Miller. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Only when you,
The agenda shall include under reports items that warrant individual attention from council. First one being item 8A1, pop-up programs initiatives report. The resolution reads that Investment Attraction Officers Report DEC Dev 2024-2, pop-ups on the Bay 2024 report be received, and that staff bring forward a 5-year operating plan for pop-up assets in October 2024 that will strategically inform the 2025 operating and capital budget planning process and plan for long-term contracts. Councillor Brown, Councillor Alsop, any questions, discussions? Councillor Brown, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. I just, first of all, just want to say a thank you to the Economic Development Group for a very comprehensive report. I do have 2 additional questions, so I'm wondering if it would be possible to bring the Investment Attraction Officer to the podium.
I don't, yeah, or do we have the? Oh, there she is. Hi, Alicia. Do you mind appearing for a question? Okay.
It pertains to the report. So my first question, I noted that the food truck fees have increased from $1,800 last year in 2023 to $3,400 in 2024 proposed. Has this been tested with the vendors? And does it create any additional risk in terms of the numbers and dollars that are being forecasted in the budget if the food truck vendors aren't receptive?
Through the chair to Councillor Brown. So this will be the first year for that fee to be collected. We're certainly going to assess based on when the applications go out if the response is there from food truck operators. We're looking very much at seeking rotating food trucks, because a challenge we've had in the past is securing trucks for a full season because they are portable vehicles. Oftentimes they want to be moving around. So it's something that we will assess as we go and as we collect applications and assess the demand. And if we need to look at, if it looks like our revenues are coming in less, then we will look at our expenses and make sure that that's reflected in the budget.
Thank you. So the second question was related to the 30,000 in sponsorships that were included in the budget as well. Admittedly, within the report, it's about both business activation along with waterfront activation. But I guess if you look at it from the business activation component, I'd like to understand a little bit more clearly around what kinds of sponsorships would we be seeking that would support business activation?
Sure. Thanks for the question through the chair to Councillor Brown. I'm going to use an example from another community because I don't want to highlight potential businesses that we want to approach in our community before we've done so. But I'll use the example of Nathan Phillips Square in Toronto. So in recent months being there, you can see that activations like their skating rink at the square is funded through Sports Check, as an example. So we really want to look at corporate sponsors and how they can help activate the space and therefore support traffic to the pop-ups and to other areas of the park.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Ms. Purkis. Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? It's carried. Item 8A2, 2024 Chamber of Commerce Contracts, Events Management, Visitor Services, and Business Development. And the resolution reads that in accordance with Section 30.3 sole and single sourcing, approval and reporting of the city's purchasing bylaw number 2023-183, the agreement with Belleville Chamber of Commerce be accepted for the provision of events management services in the amount of $225,000 plus $29,250 HST for a total of $254,250. The provision of visitor services in the amount of $110,000 plus $14,000 HST for a total of $124,300, and the provision of business development services for $69,400 plus $9,022 HST for a total of $78,422, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the acceptance agreement on behalf of the corporation of the city of Belleville, and that the city clerk be authorized to affix the corporate seal. Councillor Chatton, Councillor Enright Miller. Any questions, comments on the contract with the chamber? Councillor Thompson?
Yeah, just one question. The new contract, does that include or exclude any of the ones that they did for us in previous years?
Who can answer that? Ms. Purchase, if you don't mind. Apparently you've got the answers tonight.
Thank you. Through the chair to Councillor Thompson. So we have 3 individual contracts here. The one contract looks at events management. So it includes the chamber delivering services for Canada Day, the Waterfront Festival, Family Fun Fest in the fall, and the Santa Claus Parade. It also includes them providing consultant services for the Caribbean Festival and the Diwali Festival. So to answer your question, in the past they were more hands-on. This year we are looking at a transition period. We've met with both organizations and we'll be continuing to support them through this transition year. So that will be the change in level of service provided. When it comes to the other 2 contracts, visitor services remains fairly the same, which is why we're looking at a long-term contract, and pop-ups on the bay looks similar to last year as well.
Okay, thank you. Just one statement that, you know, they've done a great job for us in the past, and if we're transitioning away from them doing some of our events or 1 or 2, that we make sure that, because if we get into the job of trying to get volunteers, that's a whole new ballgame. So I would like to certainly make sure that we stay as well with Chamber of Commerce in doing events in the future. So thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Carried. Item 8A3, and this pertains to motion 11.1 from the February 12th, 2024 meeting, connection charge bylaw. Councillor Carr?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Rather than read out the resolution that's there, I actually have an amendment. The clerk has copies for members. A lot of the wording is the same. I'll read it. Move that the report be received and that bylaw 2019-183 being a bylaw to impose water and sanitary sewer connection charges to recover the capital cost of installing water and or sanitary sewer works in the urban service area be amended by amending the connection charge imposed section to read that the owner of a pre-existing constructed residence shall have an indeterminate period of time from the date of notice to construct and install at the owner's expense of private, at private service connections to connect to waterworks and sanitary sewer works, and that the wording shall become mandatory, be removed as it pertains to pre-existing constructed residents, and that when notice from the city is provided, the homeowner can decline such services and complete a waiver to the satisfaction of the city, and I'll speak to that.
Second, Councillor Brown. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, as council can see, most of the wording is similar to the motion that I had on the floor 2 weeks ago. Took out the section about the empty building lots. They'll be covered under development charges as staff have put out in the report. And then the other thing is related to signing a waiver. I know there was concern, and it's noted in the staff report about risk to the city. This has been done in other municipalities where services have been offered through notice that the homeowner would sign a waiver, and that provides some protection to the city should there ever be a claim of liability should a septic system fail or what have you. Interestingly enough, when the connection bylaw came into, was first introduced in 2019, the staff report at the time outlined the fact that there was expenses incurred for these services to go through because of development, and how do we recover those charges. And so it was heavily focused on cost recovery, and the intent of the bylaw was cost recovery. Obviously, with development, you're going to see those services expand. But in 2019, there was no concern about environmental issues should a well or fail or a septic fail. The question I would have, and I know this was raised last week, is well, what about areas where there is no development occurring and there are no services expanding? Those individuals or those rural residents would have the same risk in terms of managing their well and septic, and we've been doing that for well over a century, quite frankly. And I think at this day and age that residents know that for a well you can get your water tested at the health unit, and septic system requires regular pumping to function properly. And if there are issues where one impacts another property owner, then that becomes a civil matter between those property owners. At the end of the day, what we have here is we have growth occurring, and we have services going to that growth area. If, for example, we aren't planning to go east, and as you know, the province tried to expand our urban boundary, and we politely said that's not in our plans, and could you please take it out of yours, and which they did. So we're not looking at putting services there, but yet in and around that area, we have folks that are on private systems, but that's not a concern. We're just looking for cost recovery. As I mentioned last week, and I won't belabor too long, but it's about affordability. And quite frankly, I spoke with a resident in Ward 1 who 5 years ago just put a new septic system in at $35,000. Now, could you imagine if a year from now the city's services go by because of multi-million-dollar development occurring, and we're asking that person or resident to now hook up to water and sewer, pay the $12,000 connection charge, which could be higher next year or will be higher next year, and then fund all those private services. The other thing that was brought to my attention is that at a resident, a young fellow just starting out, scrape together enough to buy a house, cover a mortgage, which we know in this day and age is really hard to do. The last thing that he's envisioning now is to pay for the connection and also pay for the private services. Then in addition to that, part of the home purchase and being on private system was affordability. We're going to take that affordability away and in exchange of that, send him a monthly bill. So we have to be cognizant of the impact. The biggest thing I see is that residents don't have a choice on where development occurs. At the end of the day, it's good planning, and it follows the Planning Act, and we allow the city to grow. But at the same token it's not fair for a resident who's lived in a quote-unquote rural area to suddenly have this development occur, and that is impacting their neighborhood, if you will, but they accept it. But then now to have that development cause encroachment on their land and incur expenses is too much for my liking. And so my hope is with this amendment here that council can support this. And I would ask for a recorded vote on this one as well, please.
Questions, comments? Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. In the last few days, I've had some conversation with 2 or 3 residents. One of the ones that Councillor Carr's speaking about on Bridge Street. So out of the, and it was only 3 people that I spoke to. My way of thinking is that we're looking at development. We're taking that main pipe up to where it needs to go. And we're going to have to put a connection in that particular lot. What I would, and I discussed with those 3 residents, is that if we don't put it in now and take it to the lot line, the city's going to have to dig that up later. Granted, sure, the increase is going to go up, and we'll reap more benefits by them having to pay the city's cost back then. My thinking is, put the main line through, put the connection through, have them pay the connection charge over a 10-year period. It's there, it's less costly now, and if they never put in sewer and water, that's up to them. And that one resident, granted, yes, he put a new system in, and that's not cheap. But what in my way of thinking, you know, we're looking to recover our development cost as we go. If we start delaying it, somebody else has to pick that cost up now. So, and it's certainly a lot easier to do the connection when we're putting that pipe in than to go in and dig it up later and have to destroy road or whatever it might be. Put it in, take it to the lot line, it's done, and they pay the 8,000-10,000 over 10 years, or they want to go over 15 years. Doesn't matter to ease it. I wouldn't want to have to pay the 30 or 40 or 50,000 if my well and sewer or septic system was in good shape. But I can't see why the city can't do this right now and go to the residents and say, look, we only want the connection charge. To me, that's the most economical for the city. Granted, you know, we got to look after our taxpayers, but we as a council, we're here with 2 purposes. We're here to make the best for their city, but yet to look after our taxpayers. So we got a tough decision to make, and that's where I'm sitting, that we're looking after the taxpayer by not forcing them to charge to hook up and take it over a period of time, and it's less costly to do it now than it is 10 years down the road or 5 years. So the only way I would look at this, so I want to support the motion the way it reads. Thank you.
Councillor Alsop.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And I just wanted to voice my support for Councillor Carr and his motion. I too had several calls from residents both in Ward 2 and Ward 1 on this issue. And it's more far-reaching than I would have expected initially. There's a lot of people, even in the urban boundaries of the city, that are seeing new residential development occurring down the street from their houses, and many of them are significantly concerned about what this will mean for them if they're having to pay these costs. And I did speak to that same gentleman that Councillor Carr referenced, who had just put in a new system within the last 5 years, paid about $30,000, a little more than $30,000. This is someone who's retired. And so in order to be able to connect with that $11,000, $12,000 charge and then have the pipes run to their house and all the inside plumbing, they're expecting that would be in the order of another $30,000 or $40,000. And as someone who's retired, who's not bringing a lot of income, in order to be able to do that, they would have to either take out a home equity line of credit, many of which are hovering in the 6 to 8% range right now, or pull investments, which are essential for them, the income of which they need to live. So for me, I think that what we're doing is we're overburdening the taxpayer for new development that's coming in through no fault of their own. They've expressed that, you know, they're certainly in favor of the development. They understand why it's necessary, but to put that extra onus on them out of pocket, I don't know a lot of people that can do that without having to change their situation financially. And I just think that it's not the right time with all the costs that we're seeing, inflation being what it is, interest rates being what they are, to be asking citizens who are maybe just scraping by to be putting in this extra money to connect when they may have no need to do so, and this certainly wasn't something that they had previously planned. So I'll be supporting the motion as presented.
Thank you. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. Last week, Councillor Carr and I had an opportunity to speak with a number of residents in Ward 2, and this topic was one of the items that we did discuss. I want to echo that affordability, not only for the cost of the connection and all of the things that go with it, but affordability in terms of trying to make that mortgage payment and trying to put food on the table. And to suggest to someone that now you're going to be faced with, you must pay this, and suggesting to them that they can amortize over 12 years, so that's a good thing. Well, regrettably, you cannot amortize the cost of a contractor coming in and working in your home. And that is by far more significant than even what this bylaw was intended. Second of all, as I read the report, I personally happen to live in an area where the likelihood of ever seeing water and sewer in my direction is slim, if nil. And I recognize that. And in fact, I was quite aware of that when I purchased that home. However, I happen to live in a village where there are several others, all of us on wells and septic, with the exception of a very small group, but all of us on wells and septic, all very close proximity to each other. And so the question then, in reading this report, knowing that those services will never come my way, have I got other environmental issues that we should be conscientious of? We test our wells every year. We have our septic systems inspected every time we have them cleared and emptied. And this report, the way it's, I don't know if that was the intention, but to suggest that we're at an environmental risk, well, I think we accepted the risk when we moved into and purchased homes that were on a septic and were on a well. So I think we need to respect that. I too went back and looked at the report, trying to look at the date from August 12th, 2019. And the report itself was all focused on the recouping of costs, and at no time was the environmental issue came up. So I know I'm being repetitive to what Councillor Carr also introduced, but I thought it was important to understand that the receptivity from our residents in Ward 2 at our town hall was not welcomed, and I think we have a responsibility to those residents to make sure that their voices are being heard. Thank you.
Councillor Enright Miller.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to support this motion, amended motion, and thank Councillor Carr for bringing it in. I too am one of the people that may never see water. I'm on a septic and well, and do diligently check our water and yearly. I think it comes down to a case of sort of if it's not broke, why fix it? I realize that for revenues for the city, we need to recoup revenues, but I also cannot see putting a hardship of enforcing people to connect. You know, it would be a terrible hardship and something that would have to be planned for, I think, for anybody. Having said that, I don't think, and it's maybe a question, does that preclude anybody, if the main line is going past their home, that they cannot just have the connection done and pay over the 10 years, as opposed to actually connecting? Can they still do that?
Yes, go ahead.
Through the chair to Councillor Enright Miller, of course, when the services go through and notice is provided, the option, following the motion that's on the floor, if it passes, the policy would be amended, and it's at the discretion of the homeowner whether they want to connect or not.
Okay, and that would be just a connection that they could connect to the city and then leave the actual connection to the house at some point when they could afford it?
No, the
both are
connection
tandem.
occurs, so when the services are put down the street, the stub is put to the property line and capped.
You're committed.
And if the homeowner wants to pay the city's fee over 10 years or all at once, they're free to do that. If they would like to connect, then they would have to do that private connection on their own property at their own expense.
At the same time.
At whatever time they choose.
Okay.
Is the basis of the motion.
Thank you very much.
Please. Councillor Chat.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. I think at the crux of this is really the homeowner's autonomy for how to manage their home. And I think that's really where I'm sitting in terms of support, that I support the amended motion, because it does give that autonomy back to the homeowner. So I'm definitely in support of it. Thank you.
Councillor Thompson, you have a supplementary?
Yeah, just one quick statement. I've already made what not supporting this, but I must say, out of the 3 people that I spoke to, all 3 of them didn't mind the proposition that I was going to make tonight, that they pay the connection charge and pay that over 10 years. So they weren't adverse to that. I'm not saying everybody be, but those 3 people were not totally against that.
And I'm gonna have the mayor take the chair just briefly, because it being a recorded vote, I'm voting, but I'd like to say a few words first.
Councilor Millet?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm going to support the motion as amended and brought by Councillor Carr. I asked for this to be tabled at the last meeting because we needed more information. I'm glad we had the time for staff input in it. For those who are unfamiliar, we had a recommendation that a review of connection charge bylaw occur with the upcoming development charge updated background study. Well, that's all well and good, but we're in the process of making extensions of these hard services up Farnham Road. We could very well, in the next few years, be extending services, and many of us heard from residents of Bridge Street West, where we will be extending services out to connect to the to some of the areas, the new subdivisions that are going to be opening up in that end west of that area. Marshall Road, where Bridge Street West turns into Marshall Road, all the way up Marshall Road, we're going to have residents there. And it's not lost on me that this is a potential revenue source, as Councillor Thompson pointed out. We're extending these services, and some of this is cost recovery. There's 664 properties within the urban boundary on private or shared wells, and 569 properties on private septic systems. Now, if every one of those decided to forego or sign the waiver, that's an awful lot of connection fees that the city's going to have to, basically, we're extending the services but not getting the return on the people who may or may not. But the last point I'm going to make, and because it's been suggested that we maybe have them pay the connection fee regardless of whether they hook up. I find it hard to understand how you would be asking to force someone to pay a charge for something that they're not planning to use. Asking someone to pay that connection fee regardless of whether they got a perfectly functioning well and septic on their property, that's an ask of, that's one hill too far. So I'm going to support the motion as Councillor Carr has amended.
Thank you. Since I made the motion, I just want to make a comment at the end. I think it's just important that, and just touch on what Councillor Thompson said. The connection to the lot line will be there, and that the motion calls for the bylaw to be amended to provide notice. Then it's a matter of, do you want to connect? If you connect, then it's the connection charge plus the private work. If you don't want to connect, that connection is still there and available should something happen to their system, or the house sell and the new owner comes in and realizes that it's there and says, you know what, I would much rather have this than worry about a well and septic. But at the end of the day, and Councillor Millet hit the nail on the head, if we weren't running those services to the McMansions, if you will, further up the street, those pipes wouldn't be going there and we wouldn't be having this conversation. And it's making sure we're looking out for the people in between. Thank you.
Councillor Enright Miller?
Yes.
Councillor Millet?
Yes.
Councillor Thompson?
No.
Councillor Alsop?
Yes.
Councillor Brown?
Yes.
Councillor Carr?
Yes.
Councillor Chatton?
Yes.
Mayor Ellis?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Consent items we move to with Councilor Millet in the chair.
Thank you, MC Mayor. And consent items. Council may adopt consent items by one motion, but prior to consideration of such motion, members may request that specific items be removed from consideration under such motion, and council shall consider such items individually. And the resolution reads that the consent items be approved with the exception of, and we'll go to my left. Counselor Thompson, do you want to pull anything? 8B3 for Counselor Thompson. Counselor Carr.
No, thank you.
Counselor Enright Miller.
No, thank you.
Counselor Alsop.
No, thank you.
Counselor Brown.
No, thank you.
Counselor Chatton.
No, thank you, Chair.
Mayor Ellis.
No, thank you.
Okay. Item 8B3. Oh, yeah, motion that consent items be approved with the exception of, 8B3. Can I get a mover? Mayor Ellis, Counselor Chatton, all in favor? Carried. 8B3, City of Belleville Grant Committee, and the resolution reads, the council approved the recommendations of the grant committee as outlined in the Director of Finance Treasurer's Report, number DF 2024-05, City of Belleville Grant Committee. Mover? Counselor Alsop, second. Counselor Thompson. Counselor Thompson, you asked to have this pulled?
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions. First of all, on the items where, the first one you come to is 5.3, Rotary Club of Belleville, Porch Fest. They're asking for use of some municipal equipment, but there's no cost in there. Do we not normally put a cost that they're receiving for the use of that equipment? And is it not included in the total grants? I don't know who chairs this committee.
Mr. Ferguson, if you could respond, please.
Through the chair to Councillor Thompson, the in-kind services associated with, the Porch Fest request are $1,628. That is the recommendation for the award within the report.
So, if I may then, in the future reports, if it's possible, for the grant committee where there's use of equipment, can I have the cost that it's estimated will cost the city in the future information?
Just a point of
Counselor
clarity.
Chatton?
Sorry,
Yep.
point of clarity. On page 56, it is. It's actually written right there, $1,628.
But not on 52 though,
And it says in-kind services.
but not on page 52. That's where I am.
Okay, but it is included in the report on page 56.
I realize that, but not on page 52. Anyways, that's fine, thank you very much.
Thank you,
But the
Councillor
other question is, now I forgot the other question. Is there a second grant submission this year?
Through the chair to Councillor Thompson, there will be, yes, another intake, and we've set aside some of the funding available for approval in the second half of the year. So we didn't allocate all of the grant funding, approximately $40,000 remaining, where we'll open up the intake program through the grant committee in the second half of the year.
So there's 40,000 left to apply for?
That's correct.
So how much was allotted in the first go-around?
Through the chair to Councillor Thompson, the total amount allotted and proposed to be awarded through the grant committee for this intake was $45,042.
So when's the second application have to be in?
Through the chair, the call for the second intake is will open as approved by the grant committee, so that date hasn't been set yet. It will
Okay.
be in the latter half of the year.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on this item? Do we need a separate motion for this one? Yeah, all in favor? It's carried. And we'll move to information items, general information notification to, what? Why don't I go back a page? What am I doing? Yeah, I know. Oh, that the agenda items be received with the exception, these are council for information items, that the agenda items be received with the exception. I thought that's what I was doing, okay. with the exception of items, and I'll go the other way around, Mayor Ellis.
No, thank you.
Counselor Chatton.
No, thank you, Chair.
Counselor Brown.
No, thank you.
Counselor Alsop.
No, thank you.
Counselor Enright Miller.
No, thank you, Chair.
Counselor Carr.
No, thank you.
Counselor Thompson.
No, thank you.
All right, and the motion reads do we have a mover in a second? To receive. Yeah, motion to receive, Counselor Carr, Counselor Chatton, all in favor, carried. Items received in the Corporate Services Department that may be of interest to city councilor staff, seeing none, rise and report. Counselor Brown, Counselor Alsop, all in favor, carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Millet. Reading of bylaws, following first, second, and third reading of bylaws. Members may debate under second reading of bylaws. So I need a motion for 2024 30, 31, 32, 33, and 34. Moved by Councillor Alsop, seconded by Councillor Enright Miller. All in favor? Carried. Second reading of bylaws and discussion. 2024 30, 31, 32, and 33. Moved by Councillor Enright Miller, seconded by Councillor Alsop. Discussion, all in favor, carried. And third and final reading of 2024 30, 31, 32, and 33. Moved by Councillor Brown, Councillor Millet, all in favor, carried. New business. We'll go around. Councillor Chatton.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. It's actually a follow-up from the new business from last meeting. I had asked for staff to be directed to investigate detox centers in similar municipalities, and I was wondering who was tasked with doing that and if they do have an update or a report.
CAO Bobe.
Through the chair to Councillor Chatton, staff are still working through that, and certainly there's been some discussions with the province. And I think we'll have more on that later in the week, but we will have a report coming back to council either the first or second meeting in March.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Motions or new business? Councillor Carr?
Thank you, Mayor. I've got a request for a staff report. I'd like to request a staff report outlining options and process for the city to conduct a value for money review for policing in the city of Belleville, and that such a review consider the efficiency and effectiveness of how public funds are being utilized, and that such a review include the following objectives: cost effectiveness of operations compared to other municipalities, including those under contractual arrangements, and outlining cost per property; service quality, including response times in all tax areas, crime prevention measures, and community engagement efforts; resource allocation, including efficient use of resources, scale of procurement, as well as operating and capital expenditures; performance indicators such as crime rates, clearance rates, and citizen satisfaction; community impact, including perceptions of safety and overall well-being of residents; and finally, innovation and best practices being adopted to improve efficiency and effectiveness. And I'll provide this to the clerk.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. Councillor Brown? I don't think we need a motion. Okay, you can. Okay, thank you, Councillor Carr, for that. Motions, notice of motions, announcements. Councillor Millet.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I would like to make a proclamation. March is Amyloidosis Awareness Month. Amyloidosis is a group of diseases caused by deposits of abnormal proteins known as amyloid in one or more organs of the body. If left untreated, it can cause organ failure and even death, but it is often misdiagnosed or undiagnosed. Today, until March 3rd, the Belleville sign, Bridge Street Bridge, and Fire Station Gardens will be lit red for the cause. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Your Worship. March is also Endometriosis Awareness Month. 1 in 10 girls and women, as well as unmeasured numbers of non-binary and transgender individuals, will develop endometriosis. Due to a lack of awareness and education, it takes between 7 to 12 years to get a firm diagnosis. The Belleville sign, Bridge Street Bridge, and Fire Station Number 1 Memorial Garden will be lit yellow on March 11th until the 17th to create more awareness for endometriosis and hopefully draw unity within the community. I do have a second item. If I could, I just want to extend my thanks to all of the residents that came out to the town hall last week. It was a full house, well engaged, meeting that we scheduled for 2, took 3 hours, which just shows the level of engagement, and the great conversation went in. I think we had an opportunity to review the draft 2024 budget, to really consult with the residents in terms of how they felt about it. We used it as an educational opportunity as well around the casino funds, which often get prompted forward, and to talk about other matters that were important to the residents. So I wanted to extend my thanks to everyone that came out, and of course thanks to my partner in crime, Councillor Carr. We sort of have it down to a pattern now, I think. So I appreciate his support as well as those of the residents. Thank you.
I just want to comment, I was getting feedback from Councillor Marlette, but thank you to my 2 ward councillors for doing that, and I did see the room was full in the pictures, so. And Chris had a mustache and a beard and a hat on, so. Next is Councillor Enright Miller.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Councillor Carr and Councillor Brown, for doing the town halls. I'm sure that they're just wonderful. I have a proclamation, and I would like to proclaim March 8th to be International Women's Day. It is a day to recognize the social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women, as well as celebrate the power and potential of women and girls. The purpose of this day is to also help raise awareness and encourage everyone to collectively take action so that we might one day forge a world that is diverse, equitable, and inclusive, completely free of bias, stereotypes, and discrimination. The Belleville sign, Bridge Street Bridge, and Fire Station Number 1, Memorial Garden, will be lit purple for March 4th through the 10th in honor of women. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Enright Miller. Councillor Thompson.
I'd like to proclaim the week of March 4th to the 10th, 2024, to be 28th Annual Violence Awareness and Act of Kindness Week. The lives of many citizens of Belleville have been directly or indirectly impacted by the ravages of violence. Many Canadians fall prey to senseless acts of violence every year, and this violence can happen in our homes, schools, and our local communities. By the time a child graduates from high school, they'd have seen an estimated 16,000 televised and social media shootings and overall 300,000 acts of violence. This prevalence of violence in our society makes victims of us all. Random act of kindness must prevail and overcome random acts of violence. The citizens of Belleville are encouraged to continue to support and embrace the ecology practice of random act of kindness, and not only during this special week, but throughout the year. And I proclaim that week.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson.
One other thing then, I'd like to thank the people, Holly DeWeer and her staff of DocFest. Great weekend, lots of great documentaries, put a great evening on. I want to thank Councillor Millett. He wasn't able to go, so I got a nice pass, and then I got a pass for my wife, and just a lot of work goes into it, and you know, I have to commend them. They continue to do it year to year, so it's a great thing, so thank you.
Anybody else? Seeing none, I just learned that there's a press release sent out congratulating our new CAO, Matt McDonald, that council decided on, and I believe you'll start the first week of August, Matt. It'll be out, your calls will be ringing, council will be taking you out for lunch and all that, but congratulations, Matt. And Rod, I know that you're not going to miss me, but I'm going to miss you, and I think that the ship has been sturdied for a couple of years, and you've got a lot to look forward, Rod, and be proud of what you've done over the last 2 years, I believe, and hopefully you retire with good health, and that you come back and be the council advocate that you want to be about the sidewalk that you talked about. So, having said that, and Matt, you've got to learn to take the elevator because you're coming up to the top here now. So, I need a confirmatory bylaw, resolution that bylaw number 2024-35, a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held on February 26, 24, be read a first, second, third time, and finally pass this 26th day of February 24. Councillor Chatton, Councillor Enright Miller, all in favor. carried. Motion to adjourn, Counselor Millet, Counselor Alsop, all in favor, carried. Thank you, everyone.